Hey everyone, it's Sean from Dungeon Printer, and today's video is going to be about failure. Mainly the different failures that I've had with the Phrozen Transform, and hopefully, once this thing finishes, a success to show you guys at the end of the video. The only print so far that I've gotten successful out of this machine has been this guy here. It's just a little calibration rook from Thingiverse. I've printed this many times before, but everything else so far has failed miserably. And now, I'm not saying that this is a bad machine or sending it back or anything like that. This is almost 100% user error and learning curve. This machine is brand new. I knew going into it, even in my first video, I said there's going to be issues, there's going to be troubleshooting, there's going to be a lot of stuff that we need to work on and figure out together as a community as more people get this printer. But even without that community support yet, I've been working and trying to get this thing to work. And I've learned a lot over the last week, and it's been an exhausting week for me for a lot of reasons. I probably look tired and terrible right now, but I think we're getting close. And like I said, hopefully by the end of this video, we can show you success and what success looks like. It's been so long since I've seen it. But first of all, I want to talk about the reasons why I think my prints have been failing. And I think the first and major reason why is I didn't properly calibrate the plate. Now, I followed the instructions that were in the manual, but incidentally, those are slightly different instructions than the ones that were given to me on the Phrozen Facebook group by the people who work for the company. They basically gave me the video for the Shuffle XL, I believe, showing a little bit different method to do that. I also think that my plate is maybe slightly bent because one of the corners wasn't able to fully calibrate how I need to. But I'm going to be actually doing a video on properly calibrating this thing a little bit later, and I'll put that out and show you the whole process that I went through and trying and retrying. I think the next issue that I've been having that has led to bad prints is just this machine requires a different way to support your models. With the models being heavier and bigger, they were pulling away from and breaking off of the supports that I had been trying before. Now, I had tried manual supports in Chitubox. I tried auto supports using the recommended Phrozen Transform settings in the Phrozen slicer. I tried manual through V9 Creator, a whole bunch of different options, just supporting the hell out of these things and just still not coming up with great results just from how I was used to using supports for the Photon. Which is a completely different machine size and everything. It makes sense that this machine's going to react differently. And then the other day on a Facebook group, the Phrozen team reached out to me, gave me some settings to try with my print, and that is what's currently running right now. So I woke up to another failed print this morning. That sucks. But the good news is that means that we can now try the settings that the Phrozen folks sent over to me. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to persevere. We're going to keep going. There's victory in our future, and one of these prints is going to be it. So let's get to it. We're in the home stretch. There's about 43 minutes left on my first, hopefully successful large print on the Transform. I've been checking in on it pretty much all day since I started it. It's been a very, very long print. Taking it a little bit slow on the layers, just trying to make sure everything goes right, but it is almost done. And we're gonna crack it open here in a little bit and see if it was successful or not. I don't know. I'm excited. This has been a long week trying to get this thing to work properly. But thanks to some advice from the Phrozen people themselves with how to structure the supports and what settings to use on them, which I will share, I think it might actually be ready to work.
And here it is. I just spent about 2 hours cleaning off the vast majority of the supports and the nubs, but it is done. Now you can see a couple imperfections there. The supports on the left side here failed, so we lost a talon and a tiny little bit of damage on the wing there from the supports, but other than that, that's about the only thing on here that didn't print. You can see the detail on the chest hair there. A couple nubs from supports I've got to clean up still. But one thing I am impressed with is for the sheer amount of supports that were on this thing, I'm not seeing hardly any instances of damage. These here are these are support nubs and those will come off, but this entire wing was filled with supports, and it is smooth. And there. Got a little bit of a layer line there, but that's not bad. Same thing with this wing here. This was full on. I mean, you saw earlier how many supports there were on this thing. Here's the top of the wing. This was pretty much pristine because there weren't any supports here. This was the top of it, but honestly, like the inside of the wing to me looks just as smooth as that. Get in here so you guys can see the layer lines from print. Now I printed this at 0.05, so can go finer, but this took a long time at 0.05. This was pretty close to a day print, I think. Probably about 20 hours. But still, for the sheer size of it and the fact that I didn't have to piece this together from several different parts and glue and fill in the holes with any kind of putty and all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Is it perfect? Not by a long shot. There's an instance, the base here had peeled up a little bit, and I showed you that on the foundation. So that is a little bit apparent there. I made the mistake of warming up the supports before I peeled them off, and I wasn't paying attention, and I made the water too hot, so the base actually got a little bit melty down here. So I screwed that up. But this base is actually pretty good all around, except for the area back here where it peeled away from the plate for some reason. But honestly, for how much it peeled away from the plate when I showed you that spot earlier, I am impressed that this thing still worked and came out as good as it did. The only thing that really came from that was these supports here failed. But the entirety of the supports back here, if you remember on the back part of the plate here, were lifted up, and this thing still worked and it still formed and it looks perfect. So there you be. For those wanting to know the quality of the Phrozen Transform and what it can do, this is not a huge print. This is still only about half the size that the machine can do. But let's take a look here. So it's about probably 7.5 tall, and about 9 wide, roughly 8.5, 9. But the important thing is this is the full size print. If you guys followed the Lost Dragons Kickstarter, 3D printed tabletop, Danny and the crew did a lot of these dragons, and even in pieces, if you're trying to print these in resin on a photon, it's not going to work. You're going to have to shrink it down, or you're going to have to split it in some way, like this one here in particular, because the base and the head, when they're in different pieces, are all attached, and then you kind of attach the other things to it from there. Being able to print this entire thing with no assembly required that's worth it to me. Took a long time to get the supports off, but even with that massive amount of supports, the inside of these wings are pristine. Just need to do a little bit more cleanup on the nubs that are left over. And quality overall, I'm very impressed with. So there you have it. My first actual, real, successful print on the Phrozen Transform. Speaking of the Lost Dragons and Kickstarter files and stuff, some of the files that are still coming out are mounted dragon heads. And I would really love to do large format dragon head in this printer, and then mount it on like a nice wooden plaque or something and paint it up. So we shall see once those come out. Maybe we could do a project to make a video on that. But it is 6 a.m. I've been working on finishing this thing all night, and I am happy it is done. I'm happy that it worked, and this is just the beginning. As good as this turned out, there's still work to do, but it's a starting point, and it's a great starting point, actually. So it'll only get better from here. Say goodbye, Ice Father. Goodbye.